Today we're taking a look at the latest trade rumors around the league. We're looking at teams like the Senators, the Habs, the Islanders, and the Minnesota Wild. We also have some other news regarding a signing, and a longtime NHL player has called it a career. We'll discuss the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of news and rumors to look at here today. Of course, we saw the big transaction yesterday. Kind of, nice to see some significant news to talk about for a change, with Kadri officially going to become a Calgary Flame and Sean Monahan thus being traded to the Montreal Canadiens. So we'll get into some, the spin-off effect from that here in just a moment. First up, though, longtime NHL player Kyle Turris has called it a career. So he's now no longer going to be playing, and he's going to be going back home to BC, and he'll be working in the BCHL as an advisor to the GM for one of the teams there, as well as working as a player development coach. So, of course, Kyle Turris was a high pick of the Arizona Coyotes, played there for a few years, ran into a bit of a disgruntled situation, you could say. Ended up getting traded to the Ottawa Senators, where he played by far the best hockey of his career. Started as a number 2 center, took over eventually as a number 1 for a while, and had some real good seasons there. Ever since he left Ottawa, things didn't really stay at the same level. He went to Nashville, probably had the first season was decent, and then slowly started to decline from there. Ended up in Edmonton, did get better, and now he's done. Ultimately, Turris' career is not likely as long as he was probably hoping for, but he's had a good run, made some good money, and now is ready for the next stage of his career. I know personally, I'll always remember Turris as a Senator, especially for the 2017 Eastern Conference Final run, which is their best playoff run here in recent memory for sure, where he played such a huge role, scoring many big overtime goals. He was a big part of that team, and that'll probably be what most fans end up remembering him for. Now, on a couple of signings here, the Minnesota Wild are signing a college free agent, 5'9" center Sammy Walker, who played his collegiate hockey at the University of Minnesota, is going to be remaining home. He was a draft pick of the Lightning, chose not to sign with them before the deadline, and his rights expired, and he will be signed here by his hometown Minnesota Wild franchise. I don't know, he's likely going to end up starting in the minors and see where things go. He's 23 years old now, so of course he gets a shorter ELC, and we'll see how things work out for the undersized centerman from Minnesota. The Avalanche have also re-signed one of their RFAs, and that's prospect Shane Bowers, who's now 23. He was a former first-round pick of the Ottawa Senators, who was included in the Matt Duchene trade, which went to the Avalanche via that deal. Never really materialized like some other. Of course, they had a stacked prospect pool at the time. He's only played, I think, 37 AHL games so far, and has put up only like 9 or 10 points. So he certainly has lots of work to do. 750 at the NHL level should he get any games, and 100,000 at the American Hockey League level. So this is a pivotal year for Bowers to kind of get his NHL career back on track if he's going to have a shot. Of course, so we'll see what happens. Another prospect out of Atlantic Canada here. I believe he grew up around the Halifax area. Now, of course, onto some trade talk. There's still more rumors we could see. Like I said, with the Montreal Canadiens pulling off a significant deal for Sean Monahan and Kadri going to the Flames, this could create a spin-off effect. Montreal now has yet another forward. They're over the cap, but of course we get the news that Carey Price's season is over. Career could be over, so he's going to be on LTIR. They have a big pool of money there, so they're not in any danger that way when it comes to being cap compliant. Of course, like I said, though, with Monahan in the mix now, they have tons of forwards. So with more than enough forwards in the mix, you have to think some of the players on short-term deals very well could find themselves on the move. Will Monahan stay beyond the current year? I think if he plays well enough, Ken Hughes made it known he's open to signing an extension, but that's a ways away. I'm going to need some time to see how his hips are doing, how his play responds, and kind of go from there. But certainly, because they have more than enough forwards in Montreal. They're still linked to Anthony Beauvillier with the New York Islanders, and I do wonder if we'll see a potential deal that way. I think the only reason that the Isles would trade Beauvillier would be to create space to bring in a player, which they were rumored to be doing on Nazem Kadri. I think in that situation, essentially what happened, I think Kadri was talking to the Flames on the Islanders. I think he had kind of a verbal agreement on the same contract with both teams, 7x7. I think in Calgary's case, though, we had heard that the term was not 7 years in the beginning, and I think that might be why everybody was saying he's going to the Long Island. And I think Calgary might have increased the term later in the process here, which ultimately, said we can get it done now. he needs to make a decision, and he takes it ultimately, and probably tells the Islanders, I can't wait anymore, right? But if they've missed out on Kadri, the Islanders have struck out here several times this offseason. I don't know when Lou is going to come out of his long summer's nap here and get something done, but obviously the price tags are high, but you get it, the fan base is getting extremely antsy, getting very frustrated with the lack of activity this offseason. Outside of picking up Romanov at the draft, they haven't really done anything. They reportedly have contracts in place for Romanov, Dobson, etc., Bellows, and nothing's been announced. So are they going to turn their attention now to JT Miller in Vancouver? Like, he's probably one of the few higher profile players that have not been moved, that have been expected to be moved. Doesn't mean that that's going to necessarily happen for sure at this point, but you have to wonder what are they going to turn their sights to. Like, obviously Lou's had a heck of a time moving money. He's not willing to pay the prices, but what are you going to do? Like, if you don't pay the prices, yeah, you might sacrifice a bit of the future, but can you go into the year with this roster the way it is? I think he might be having a little too much faith in the current players, but I mean, they may shock us and actually bounce back more than we expect this year, which would be great for the team and the fan base. But you have to think that to take steps forward, considering how all the teams around them have done and improved. Like, it's just in the Metro Division alone, suddenly the Rangers, leapfrogged them big time last year. The Hurricanes are strong. You have to think that the Penguins and the Rangers are still going to, or Capitals, are going to be, in the mix there. Will New Jersey make some strides this year? Like, there's lots of there that they're going to be tough against. And then if you look at the Atlantic side, well, you've got Tampa, Florida, and Toronto are all going to be good again. Boston should be good again. They're going to have some big injuries to start the year, though, so that'll be a big factor for them. But then Ottawa and Detroit have made big strides in the offseason, too. So, like, getting in as a wild card could even be that much more challenging. So I don't know what they're going to do, but the Beauvillier rumors still exist. There's a new articles even through Montreal Hockey Now as early as the past 24 hours here suggesting that there's still a link there, and the Habs do have the availability to take him on from Long Island. But does it make sense for them to make that trade if they don't have something else lined up? And it's hard to have any confidence that Lou actually has anything else lined up at this point in time, considering how quiet this offseason has been, lack of immediate availability. There's even lots of people calling for his head in Long Island, and I don't blame him. Like, he hasn't spoken to the media, hasn't explained anything, and I think that's not a good look. I know he still seems to have ownership seems to have his back, but something's got to give here. He's, this team and this fan base is going to get a brand new arena, UBS, and they're going to have empty seats and upset fans here if they don't see some sort of movement to make this team better. But will Beauvillier still be a Hab? Maybe, but I don't see it happening unless they swing something else significant. And what else could they be? What else could that significant move be outside of maybe JT Miller, which is another big time player that's been rumored to be on the move? It's hard to say, really. So we'll see. When it comes to the Minnesota Wild, they're still in the trade market for a forward. They want to add a middle six or bottom six type of forward. They do have some defensemen that could be available, most notably Matt Dumba with 1 year left at $6 million. They're likely going to have an almost impossible time retaining him beyond that season, so it makes sense that they would consider making a move in that respect there. So we'll have to see where that goes, but they're still out there looking, and you have to think that, the team I just mentioned, like Montreal, has a ton of forwards. Like, they've got probably 14, 15 forwards there that could be NHL, players this year, and some of them which may have to go through waivers or be demoted. There's not many that are waivers exempt. I do wonder about the future of Slavkovsky, the first overall pick. Will he actually be a Hab at the top level this year? I do have my doubts on that. Maybe he plays in the American Hockey League. Wouldn't necessarily be bad for him to spend some time in the minors, just while they get a little bit more of the future sorted out here. Especially if they're not going to be a strong team this year, which, you do wonder, right? Like, you look at them on paper and you think they could be, but then goaltending now is certainly a big serious question mark without Carey Price. Can Jake Allen and Samuel Montembeault give this team a more competitive chance to win all the time? It's hard to say, right? But they do have a lot of good forwards, and maybe they'll surprise us, so we'll have to wait and see. But Montreal and Minnesota, I do wonder if there's a connection there, just given how many forwards that the Habs have on their roster here. and that they could maybe make a move in that respect as well. Another update in regards to the Jacob Chychrun Ottawa Senators situation. There still seems to be Ottawa media that are saying that they're still very much engaged here. I know Brent Wallace in the latest episode of his show with Mark Bathot on the podcast and on YouTube, saying that he believes that, because there was a couple days ago it was revealed, according to his sources, that the price tag was 2 first-rounders, a high-end prospect, and then maybe another piece as well, right? Which would likely be Zaitsev, the cap dump, right? So they want 2 first and a high-end prospect. He's speculating now, based on his own sources, as well as combination of his own opinion, that the prospect may not necessarily be who you think. Like, he feels like players like Jake Sanderson, Shane Pinto, Ridley Gregg would probably be off limits. It very well, if you look at the Coyotes' depth charts, could very well be a goalie prospect. Now, the Sens have already moved a goalie this year in, obviously, in Gustafsson in Minnesota when they upgraded to Cam Talbot. You know, they have Mads Søgaard in the minors. I would think that Søgaard wouldn't be the guy, because I do think they have him kind of somewhat earmarked as the goalie of the future. But Levi Merilainen, the Finnish goalie who's currently starring, has his moments, I guess, but he's having a decent World Junior Championship tournament, and also appears to be a real solid goalie prospect. Could very well be that player. So if to trade 2 first and Merilainen and Zaitsev, that wouldn't be terrible. But I do think that they were talking on the show as well that maybe the asking price of 2 first comes down, and maybe it becomes a first and a second, and then maybe you throw in first, a second, Merilainen, and maybe there's one more, like maybe another B-level prospect or something at it instead. I don't know, but I don't think that the Senators really want to give up 2 first for Chychrun as much as they like him. They also said on the show that they didn't expect Chychrun, if he was acquired, to play on his offside on the right, that he would probably go Shabbat, Chychrun, Sanderson, start Sanderson on the third pair instead. But then, of course, on your right side, there's still not a lot of depth there, and they don't really have, unless they go with Brandstrom on his offside, which I know is somebody who in the past has preferred it at times as well. He's still unsigned. I wonder what the hold up there is. I know Bruce Garriock said that he might be looking for more term than the Sens are willing to offer right now. So if you go with Brandstrom on the right, you got Artem Zub as well. Does Nick Holden play as offside? It just kind of creates a whole spin-off effect there of how it could impact the lineup. So I don't know how likely this Chychrun deal is going to happen, but that's the latest there, though. The prospect included very well could end up being a goaltender and may not be the player a lot of people were speculating on originally, but we'll have to see how things go. So let me know your thoughts on today's latest news and rumors around in the comment section. We'll talk about it further down there. Of course, if you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We're still coming to you here live from Digby, Nova Scotia. This might be the last video I record here, so the next video will likely be in a different location, possibly at home in my normal recording studio, so we'll see where things go from there. But as I work my way back home, we'll keep you up to date on the news. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.